Hello there, friends. This is Spencer Michaud, and today we're going to have a special Libra season question and answer session. Hope that you're doing well out there. I hope that the fall season is treating you well. Hope that you are hanging in there in the dark part of the year. We've had a busy week. We've had a tough week, a challenging week globally, domestically here in the States. It's been a little bit tough with a lot of things going around, especially with people having challenges with the hurricane and things of that nature. So if you're joining us from any of those areas, or or have friends or family out in those areas, I send my heart out to you and hope that you're doing well. If you have a question today, feel free to put question in all caps and let me know in the chat. We can talk about the astrology of the time. If you have questions about how the astrology might affect your own personal natal chart, that's cool too. If you have some technique questions, if you have questions about, I don't know, whatever comes up into your mind today, I'm happy to give it a spin. But we are going to spend, I don't know, we'll be here an hour or so, maybe a little longer. We'll see. We'll see how we're doing. So if you're just joining me, put a little comment in the chat. Let me know where you're stopping in from. Let me know where you are stopping in from and that you're here. It's always nice to see people stopping in from all corners of the world. It's a beautiful community that we've built here, and I'm so excited to be able to join you each Friday here. This is kind of what I do go live each Friday, and we break down the astrological transits. In addition to answering your questions today, we're going to kind of look at the week ahead. We're coming out of eclipse season, the transition period, and I think we're all trying to get our bearings and our footing in this new reality, this new chapter that we're in. So I can review the eclipses as well, and hopefully help shine some light on some of those themes. Stephen is here. What's up, Stephen? Nice to see you. Says good morning from San Francisco. Happy Friday. Nice to see you, Stephen. Hope you're doing well over there in sunny San Francisco. We have a number of San Franciscans that stop in. My guy Tom Hines is always here. Steven's here. Got a nice community over there. My good friend Robin is, I don't know if it's San Francisco, but Southern California. Got a lot of people on the West Coast that join us. Okay. All right. Well, friends, let me know that you're here. But we've got some straggling along here today. Hey, there's Painted Turtle. What's up, Painted Turtle? Nice to see you, friend. I hope you're doing well and everything's going well your way, my friend. Nice to see you joining us here. And excited that you'll be joining us for some of our offerings this fall. I did want to get all of you hip to the offerings that I have going on. This is the final week to sign up for our Decan Walk 24-25. So here is Decan Walk 24-25. We are going to be starting this Monday, October the 7th. And I'm really excited. We're going to be going on quite a journey here. This is my year-long offering where we are going to be diving into the 36 faces, each 12 degree, each 30 degrees, 12 signs of 30 degrees. It's Friday. We're just getting ourselves going here. Each sign is split into 3 10-degree sections called the decans. And we're going to be examining that over the course of the year. We're going to be looking at each other's charts, witnessing each other's journey, and, holding space for one another while we dive into the symbolic themes of the decans, of the signs, of the chart. You will get all 12 of my Decan webinars included in the price. You'll get a PDF workbook for each of the 36 faces via the 12 signs. And you'll have Decan flashcards to help you learn all of the significations that are associated with them. Each of these decans is syncretized with a tarot card, and we bring that into the mix as well. So if you like the tarot, if you are looking to find a supportive community to witness your journey, if you just want to witness how these transits are going to affect not only your own chart, but other people's charts, it's extremely instructive to be able to see how these symbols play out in a multifaceted way and interact with other people's charts. So every time we get together, we pull up each other's charts and we check in and we say, hey, what's going on? How is this affecting you? And we witness and we hold space And then we connect it with the themes that we're experiencing through the decans. We're going to be reading T. Susan Chang's 36 Secrets. We're going to be talking together in a Discord group in between the times that we meet. We meet twice a month for 24 times over the course of the year. So just had a really great group, and I'd be super excited if you wanted to join me. Again, this is the last weekend to sign up for the Decan Walk. If you are interested in planets, I have another offering for you. This is a new webinar series that I'm doing with my partner Tanya Andrews of Third Coast Mojo. We're going to be going into a series called Dignity and Devotion, the 7 traditional planets. And we're going to be doing every traditional planet in ascending Chaldean order, starting with the moon. And we're going to be breaking down all the significations, all the correlations that the planet has, all the symbols associated, myths associated with it. And then we're going to be showing you how to start a devotional practice to those planets via prayer, via ritual, via being able to draw the energy of that planet down in magical ritual. My partner Tanya makes these amazingly wonderful elected material like oils, soaps, salts, and things of that nature, and she's going to show you how to do that step by step. So it's a really an amazing opportunity to be able to learn about how the planets are going to function within different dignities in the chart, and then be able to think about how do we craft a mature relationship with that planet? How do we remediate some of the tough planets that we might have in our chart? And also, how do we boost some of the things that are good in our chart as well? So this is like, for example, today, like I'm wearing some Leo sun materia that Tanya crafted while the sun was in Leo. And this is hopefully helping to mitigate some of the challenging parts of the sun being in its fall in Libra. So an example of how you can kind of boost a planet that might be a little bit weaker during the course of the year with astrological magic. So check that out. That's going to start on October the 12th. And we're going to go once a month, every second Saturday until April. Until April. All right. And then finally, friends, one more to get through. I have another guided group study that's starting. We're going to be diving into the Tolkien world and reading The Hobbit together. I've got this beautiful version of The Hobbit illustrated by the author. We are going to be diving into the myths and influences of The Hobbit while we are reading it together, while we're enjoying this journey through Middle-earth. I'm hoping that this is the beginning of a journey where we are going to start with The Hobbit, and then we're going to do The Lord of the Rings, each of those 3 books, and possibly some other works with Tolkien as well. It's something that I have a really special interest in right now, and I'm really excited about diving into this world. And this is a new mythology that Tolkien created, basically, that will help us to connect those themes to the natal chart as well. We're going to be looking at Tolkien's natal chart. We're going to be looking at the release date of the books. We're going to be seeing how the themes in those books relates to astrological themes. And we're going to be building on the astrological archetypes that we've gained from the Greek tradition, from the Sumerian tradition, from the Eastern tradition. There's all sorts of themes that we draw upon, but this is another set of themes that I think that we can incorporate into our astrological toolbox. So I'd be super excited if you join me for that. That's October the 14th. That's going to be every other Monday, the second Monday of the month, second and fourth Monday of the month. Decan Walk is going to be first and third Monday. And if you want to do all of it, well, I've got a little special for you. This is the fall class bundle, where if you sign up for Decan Walk 2425, Dignity and Devotion, the 7 traditional planets, and the guided group study, you get a free bonus 2-hour Mythos natal reading. This is my flagship natal reading, a $300 value. So I hope that you'll take advantage of that if you are interested in this work. All right, friends, send me an email. If you are on the fence, send me an email. It's spencermichaudastrology@gmail.com. I'd be happy to work with you. There are payment plans available. You can do quarterly, you can do monthly. If you're struggling a little bit financially, but you still want to participate in one of these offerings, there are some sliding scale options available too. So feel free to reach out. I just want you to be able to participate. Okay, friends, that's what I've got for you with this particular part. I wanted to add one more thing. My beautiful partner, Tanya Andrews of Third Coast Mojo, is also put together a special box set for each of these planetary webinars. So this is the Supermoon box set that you see here with planetary oils, a ritually elected soap, uh, salts, and herb blends. And when you sign up for the Dignity and Devotion webinars, you get a 50% off coupon code for this box set. So check that out. She's a wonderful, wonderful practitioner. And yeah, it's really great stuff. I use it every day. I'm just marinating in Third Coast Mojo materia. All right, friends. All right. So let's check in with our chat here. Oh, there's everybody. Everybody's getting a slow start today, just like me. I feel like the words, they're trying to come out, but we're kind of tripping over it a little bit. At least I am. Jolie James is here. What's up, Jolie? Nice to see you. How are you doing, my friend? This is a new name. Welcome to the chat. It's lovely to see new folks joining us. You have to tell me where you're joining in from, my friend. Tracy Gorman is here. What's up, Tracy? Nice to see you. Hope that you're doing well. Everybody is giving each other high fives here in the chat. Tom is here, other San Francisco guy. Namaste, Spencer, and everyone. Nice to see you, Tom. Hope you're doing well over there on the West Coast. Jennifer is joining us from my backyard in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Hope you're doing well, Jennifer, and everything's going well your way with you and the fam. Painted Turtle says, oohing and eyeing at the astrological depth of the Hobbit class. Ooh, it's going to be so much fun. Lauren, I'm super excited about this. We're going to connect this story, which is just going to be fun. The Hobbit is a great jumping in point because it's a little bit more lighthearted than the rest of the Lord of the Rings series, but it's going to give us the opportunity to look into some of the mythological background for hobbits, for dwarves, for wizards, for dragons. That's going to be super fun. We're going to draw upon Celtic and Norse mythology. We're going to look into the etymology of some of the languages that he created for the elf race and things of that nature. I have a number of supplementary material that I've been acquiring that really analyzes a lot of the Tolkien world. And I'm just really excited to share that with you and to see what all of you will bring to the table. If this is your first time going through these books, that'll be an incredible experience. If you've gone through a number of times, it's awesome just to share that experience with other people and to bring your love and experience to the table as well. So yeah, it's going to be super fun, and I'm super excited you're joining us, Painted Turtle. Jolie says, marinating in special soaps. I love it. Yeah, Jolie, today when I was cleansing myself in the shower, I was using some of her Jupiter, I think it's called money soap or something. It's like a Jupiter and Sagittarius abundance soap. So I used that today. I was lathering up with that. The moon soap is really nice. It's very peaceful and relaxing. She just does really great work and works very hard at it. And, she gets better and better as she goes along. And her rituals are really beautiful, well-timed events. We talk a lot about elections that we pick out for these. She mostly does that, but sometimes we'll, banter some things back and forth. But they're really gorgeous. She has a beautiful, floral setup for most of the things, depending on what it is. A Saturn ritual altar is very different than a Venus one. So, you might have some skulls for Saturn, but some beautiful flower arrangements for Venus. And yeah, it's really great stuff. So I can't recommend it enough. Heather is here. What's up? Heather says, hey, peeps from Cambridge, UK. Nice to see you, Heather. Hope you're doing well, my friend. Thank you for joining us from across the pond today and spending your dinner hour potentially with us. Jennifer says, yes, fam is doing good this last week. Thanks for the good thoughts. Oh, I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, this has been a little bit of an up and down week, I guess, for me personally. Mars is in Cancer right now, and we're coming out of eclipse season. And this eclipse was a little bit sticky, a little hairy. I'll bring the chart up here just to kind of review this. But again, if you have questions, about what we're talking about astrologically, astro theory, symbolism, all of those things, gardening, sports, whatever, it's a kind of a free forum here for you. This is your time. But what I like to see with this is we have, let's share our screen here. So here's our chart. And we are coming off of this eclipse. So let's just kind of check in with how we're doing here. So this is eclipse season, right? And we have just come out of the new moon solar eclipse in Libra. This was the second, like earlier in the week. So we've got this Mars in Cancer in the overcoming square. We have Venus making a trine to Saturn today. So if I click back over now to what's going on, we've got Venus making that trine to Saturn, Mars in the overcoming square, still to the Libra planets. But this is even though oftentimes in pop astrology we think of Libra as a sign of balance, beauty, grace, Venusian, it's also the exaltation of Saturn. It also shows us a lot of obligations and commitments that we have. It is the fall of the sun. You know, the dignity of the sun is challenged. As a Leo ascendant, where the sun is the ruler of my first house, I always feel like I have a little bit of an energetic power outage around Libra season, and it's really important to check in with what your first house ruler is doing during these different seasons. And we have this south node element with this too, this like release element, this letting go element. And all of this is hosted by Venus and Scorpio, a fallen Venus, or an exiled Venus, excuse me. So Venus in her sign of exile in the house of Mars, where we might be grieving a loss. We might be feeling a little bit heavy. This Libra season started out pretty heavy, to be honest with you. We are all grieving the storms. We're grieving the loss of our security if we live in those areas that were hit very hard by those storms. Maybe we're grieving relationships that are fading from our lives. We've had some familial challenges here in our household a little bit too. Tanya's dad isn't doing super well, so we've been kind of grappling with that challenge. So send your thoughts and prayers to Tanya and her dad as well, because he's having some struggles. He has dementia and has been really having some challenges lately. So there's the processing part of all of that. And thinking about, it really brings up a lot of memories when you're facing big changes in your life and in your family. And I think that that's part of what Venus is bringing us through this eclipse as well. In the second decan of Scorpio, sort of this golden hour, the pain of looking back. That's what nostalgia actually means, the pain of return. So that this might be part of this eclipse where we're really kind of feeling nostalgic, feeling our emotions. We've got a challenging Mars in its fall, putting a lot of pressure on our relationships. And eventually, when we get to the first quarter of this new moon eclipse, putting a lot of pressure on the things that we're trying to build potentially as well. Like the balance between feeling our feelings and processing maybe some challenging conflict within our normal places of support could make it a little bit more challenging to do some of the professional things that we are wanting to do. So how do we manage that, right? How do we find the right balance between grieving our losses, feeling our feelings, allowing ourselves to have that experience while also, still being supported by the foundation that we need to lay out in our professional worlds. It's not an easy balance to do. I'll talk about it a little more when we get to the first quarter moon part of this. But yeah, I'd be curious to hear your stories. How are things going for you with this eclipse? How is it unfolding for you? What have you noticed? Tell me more about the house that it was in your chart. I always love hearing people's stories around this. And this is what we do in the Decan Walk too. We look at a transit that we're all experiencing collectively, and then we start to share our personal experience with it so that we can see how it plays out in many different forms. So that's kind of we're setting the tone here today. And all of this today is under the auspices of a Scorpio moon, which is also a little bit of a challenging moon, right? This is the moon in its fall. Okay, we have the moon in its exaltation in Taurus and the moon's in its fall in Scorpio. So we might not be feeling as tip-top physically as we normally might. So a lot of things to think about, a lot of things to process. We did just come off a Mercury Cazimi not too long ago as well. So a renewal and understanding of our obligations and understanding of what might bring us balance in the world. And then today, as I'm recording this, that trine between Venus and Saturn, that kind of, realism that's being infused into our relationships, coming face to face with our emotional limits, right? This is a very emotional trine, but Venus Saturn contacts show us limitations. They bring us endings. They bring us commitments. And when it's in these very watery emotional places, they bring commitments and they bring obligations that could bring a little bit of sadness. They could bring a little bit of catharsis potentially. This is a good week to let the tears flow, right? I'm feeling this too, just as a lot of grief for the climate change part of this too, for the people who have been suffering with the storms that we've been seeing in America, grieving for the lost sense of security that a lot of us may have felt in parts of the country that normally aren't touched by natural disasters. There was an article that I was reading that was talking about Asheville, North Carolina, as a place that people thought of as a climate oasis, where it didn't get hurricanes, it didn't get these storms. It was this little bubble. Well, that's proven to be not true. This is going to affect us no matter where we are, no matter what our economic station is. It's probably going to hit people that are struggling financially even harder, but it's very hard to go out and do business or to do all of the things that the machine wants you to do if your house just got washed down the street. You know what I'm saying? Like, all of this is so fragile. It's all so ephemeral. And this illusion of security that we have, it can be disrupted in times like this, when we are having eclipses, when we're grappling with the necessity to make enormous changes in the way that we organize our lives, our society, how we treat one another, how we support one another. One of the things that's been really, I've really not enjoyed seeing, but it has brought me a little bit of hope, is just seeing how people come together to help one another during crisis. One of my favorite, historical figures, Mr. Rogers, he always talks about look for the helpers in these crises. And this is super important. Look for the helpers when we're going through these challenges. All right, we've got some comments coming in. Jolie says, the Libra solar eclipse was in my 8th house, where my natal sun and Uranus is. I feel like much of this year is about me taking my power back and stepping into my whole self. That's awesome, Jolie. So 8th house, right, is, having eclipse in your 8th house. There could be some changes in your shared resources with other people. There could be some tying up some loose ends after a completion of some sort. One of the things I like to think about with the 8th house, they call it the gate of Hades, one of the gates of Hades. The 2nd and the 8th house were both called the gate of Hades. You have an entrance into the underworld in the 8th house, and you're exiting in the 2nd house there. So this is a place where we are seeing what happens after maybe death, after we complete some very important thing in our lives. That's why we see things like inheritances, like dealing with estates and things of that nature. It is also the 2nd house from the 7th, which in a system called derived houses is the resources of your partner. So we take the 8th house and we overlap a different chart on top of it and make the 7th the 1st, and then the 8th becomes the 2nd of that chart. So those could be themes that are coming around as well. So letting go of dependence on others, I think, is really an important theme with an 8th house eclipse in Libra with the South Node there, right? Like you're talking about taking your power back. This eclipse is reducing some of the topical elements that the eclipse is playing out in. So reducing dependence on others or reducing obligations to others could be part of it as well. So yeah, thanks for sharing that, Jolie. And I'm glad to hear that that's coming back for you, right? And having an eclipse right on your sun and Uranus, I mean, that's a big one, right? That there's a big personal identification with those themes in particular. So, so this is a big one for you, because not only is this lighting up one topic in your chart, but it's lighting up a topic that is has had a big spotlight on it for you for your entire life, because that's baked into your chart. Jennifer says, my Sag sun lost 2 friends over the eclipse. Oh my goodness. My goodness. Now, Jennifer, is he a Sag rising or a Sag sun sign? Be curious to see what his rising sign is. I think you were saying he was potentially a Cancer rising. Sag rising? Okay. So yeah, if we look at Sag rising, we'll have to look at the rest of his chart, but think about, let's just move this chart here, okay? I'm going to move this chart so that Sagittarius is on the ascendant, so you can kind of get an idea of what we might be experiencing here. So if you look at the Sagittarius rising chart, random, of this moment, basically, if you see this on the chart, you can see that the eclipse happened in Jennifer's sun's 11th house. So you see how there is a reduction or a release associated with the 11th house of groups, friendships, associates, people that support you in your public life. So very interesting to see how that played out. I'm sorry to hear that, Jennifer. I'm not trying to intellectualize your grief, but being able to connect these with the astrological chart of the moment is super important for learning how to understand how to deal with some of these things and be able to have the foresight and foreknowledge so that we can prepare for some of these challenging things moving forward. So I'm sorry to hear that, Jennifer, but definitely is really reflected in an 11th house eclipse. Yeah, Jenna Rising, she says. Dimphy's here. What's up, Dimphy? Nice to see you. It's been a little while since I've seen your name pop up in the chat. Hope that you're doing well over there in the Netherlands, I believe. We're getting to the end of gardening season, Dimphy. Dimphy's my gardening buddy over there in Europe. Has a beautiful, beautiful garden. And yeah, we're getting to the end of the season. I just posted a video of my milkweed seeds that are the pods are bursting and the seeds are starting to disperse all over the garden. So I'm just excited to see the new milkweeds that'll come next year. But it's really beautiful. There is beauty in every part of the cycle. There's beauty in the growth cycle. There's beauty in the fruiting abundance cycle. And then there's the decay cycle has its own unique beauty. And I think that that's something that we should appreciate more, is when that garden is starting to recede and when it is starting to fade. There is just this beauty in that, and knowing that that's going to help perpetuate the next cycle. That decay is going to go back to the earth, and then it's going to be reborn in a new cycle. And that's something that I think that can help us get through the darker part of the year in the northern hemisphere, at least. Steven says, transits in my chart too. Well, Steven, show us what you got, man. I think Steven is Sag rising too. So I wonder, Steven, if you had any similar themes of maybe the ending of a friendship, or like tying up some loose ends with a group that you're a part of, something like that. That could be, it's interesting to see when we have a similar rising sign how it plays out. Now, it's going to affect us differently because of contacts in our natal charts. Jennifer's sun might have a challenging planet in the 11th house, but it might not affect us as negatively. But it is interesting to see the commonalities and the differences. Yeah, Jennifer says, that's what I thought also, that it was the 11th house. Yeah, that's definitely a good call there, Jennifer. Being that those topical places, sometimes astrology can be excruciatingly simple. We see an eclipse in a particular house, and we know some of the themes of that house. It can be very literal, right? The ending, the eclipsing of an old friendship or something of that nature. So, yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful system when we learn how to read all of those omens. Jennifer says, yes, milk pods. I have them also. They're so cool. I love when I see them around the neighborhood, I just grab a handful and just start releasing them out into the wind and watch them fly away and make a wish, whatever it is. The song I post, I feel like uh, my friend Raven, I'll give you a shout out, Raven, posted this story on her Instagram not too long ago about when you post on Instagram stories and you pick out a song, you feel like a DJ, like you're DJing the social media experience. I always feel like that when I'm sharing some video or some advertisement. I always am very intentional about the songs that I pick, and for that one, I picked Ambrosia's "The Biggest Part of Me," which has a part in it's like "Make a wish, baby, and I will make it come true." You know, so that was my little nod to the milk pod seeds floating on the wind. So, yeah, it is like I said. There is so much beauty to be appreciated on this beautiful planet. It's a planet that is worth appreciating. It's worth treating as its own being, as its own personhood, rather than just this place that will be exploited, right? And you know what the beauty of it is, and I've been learning this through my study of Robin Wall Kimmerer and her beautiful book Braiding Sweetgrass. When we take care of it and when we give back to it and only take what we need, it will continually show up and provide for us. It's such an important lesson. We have gotten so accustomed to taking and grabbing everything that we can out of fear, out of this false sense of scarcity that is built into our economic systems. Scarcity it is real, but it is also idealistic, if that makes sense. Like, yes, we go through periods of lack, but we've kind of created an economic system that preys upon and creates false scarcity. And when you connect back to the earth and when you connect back to those cycles, you start to see the abundance that it provides over and over and over and over again. No matter what we do to it, it still continues to give. Now, it is starting to defend itself. It's starting to show us the repercussions of our greed, but there's still time. There is still time to make the changes, to start to have that reciprocal relationship with this beautiful, beautiful mother, I would say, Gaia. Something I'm really passionate about. It's something that is a thread that goes through everything that I do on this channel and in my life. How do we have that positive relationship and heal it? Healing is what is needed right now. Timpy says, couldn't agree more. Brings joy and new life. Yeah, those gardens, man. That's been something that's really gotten me through these last few, I would say, difficult years, gardening, and being able to take the little patch of land that I am a steward of, that I've become responsible for, and start to heal that land from a monoculture crop of Kentucky bluegrass or whatever it is that doesn't really provide much of anything for anyone, and start to plant native plants and restore prairie wildlife, restore native habitat to this little postage stamp of land. And you'd be amazed at how much life it brings and how much it springs to life and how much joy and peace it can bring you connecting in that way. There's they tell you if you're feeling stressed, go out and touch some grass, right? Well, go out and walk in your garden. Go out and touch some milkweed fluff, I think is a better way to think about it at this point. I'm just enjoying the asters right now. Asters are a beautiful fall flower that are just the beauty that comes in Libra season. That's why Libra is associated with, I believe, the color purple. Venus can be purple. Libra is purple. And you can see that because of these beautiful purple flowers that come up, this last burst of intense color that comes. It's just so awesome. Steven says he started mentoring others. Oh, that's good. I'm glad to hear that. But that you also lost a friendship. Okay, so there's another repeated theme with Sag Rising and the eclipse happening in the 11th. So I'm sorry to hear that, Steven, and I hope that you're able to find some peace and some closure within that. I know it's tough that relationships come in and out of our life, but sometimes when we release things that have, you know, passed their time or their due date, it opens us up for new things to come into our lives. And that's what this garden meditation teaches us as well. Painted Turtle says, fourth house eclipse, as a as a moon person, I'm feeling lots of family harmony. However, that Mars in Cancer is natal to me, and an issue we keep having is one of our neighbor's kids keeps throwing verbal insults at my kids as they are walking home. Oh no. And the mama bear in me is starting to get pissed off. Oh wow. I do. Yeah, I can relate to that feeling. I definitely feel that mama bear energy sometimes if someone I care about is, being harassed like this. That's never an easy thing to work through emotionally. And yeah, having that Mars natally in your chart, Painted Turtle, like, so let's look at this. Let's move that chart around to Cancer, okay, just to see what this might look like for Lauren. Okay, so you can see here, there is a Cancer rising chart where Mars now is hanging out in all of you Cancer rising's first house, and that eclipse is in the fourth house, like maybe reducing something within the family, maybe making changes to your home or changes with your parents or with your roots, or thinking about new commitments to one another. This is when we release our old expectations of each other, then we can start to relate to people as they are now. And this is something I've been really going through and struggling with recently. Just that Mars in Cancer hasn't spared me or my family, and learning to relate to the people in my family differently as we grow and change is a hard lesson and not an easy one. And it's easy to get stuck in our old ways of relating to people and trying to understand them from their new vantage point while also hoping that they can understand you from your new vantage point. When let's say your kids go off to college, you relate to them differently as adults than you did as they were kids. And it's not the easiest transition. That's, spoiler alert, my daughter is in college, and sometimes we butt heads a little bit, like, because of that challenging way of trying to relate to one another from a different point in our lives. It's hard, and it takes a lot of patience and a lot of communication, and you make some missteps along the way. And I think with Painted Turtle here, Lauren, that feeling of like getting your blood raised up with Mars in your first house, it's an opportunity, right? To be able to try to learn that patience and try to, yes, to be protective, but how can we be protective in a way that helps facilitate a peaceful resolution rather than increasing the conflict? Like I said, not easy to do, and I'm not immune to the Mars challenges. I had Mars on my natal sun this week, which is not fun. Would not recommend it. It angries the blood up, I will say. But again, it's an opportunity to go take your salt bath, to relax, to try to find smaller steps that you can do to resolve things. I think that's the key. This is one thing that I've tried to incorporate into my own life this week is how can you take baby steps towards somebody rather than try to solve years of maybe misunderstandings or challenges all in one swoop, right? How can you just take that first step towards somebody and allow them to take that first step towards you? And that's how we can build momentum, right? And it's very easy to misjudge that sometimes. So be careful with this situation, Lauren, especially because this might activate something in your chart where you might be feeling especially protective. Like oftentimes, with Mars and Cancer, if you have it natally, there were conflicts in the home. There were conflicts in spaces that were supposed to be supportive. Same thing that we see sometimes with Saturn in Cancer. With people that have Saturn in Cancer, sometimes there was a feeling of being exiled from a family, or feeling like not having the support that you needed growing up. So how do we take that and build into our own lives the support that we need, or to be able to grow into a nurturing personality, or an ability to nurture not only ourselves but others as well. All right, let's see. Yeah, sorry, Stephen, about your friendship ending there. It definitely is difficult for sure, friend. Seema's here. What's up, Seaman? Seema, coming to us here from London. Oh, Venus and Scorpio, you are trying to catch us today. Nice to see you, Seema, joining us from London. Jennifer says, glad you're a mentor. Yeah, I think I'm glad you're a mentor too, Stephen. It's always nice to be able to help other people. Heather says, Pisces eclipse was on my part of fortune opposite natal Saturn, with the transiting sun illuminating my Saturn. I had a nuclear medicine bone scan and was injected so that I glowed like a neon skeleton for the cameras. Oh, wow. Wow. That is pretty incredible, Heather. So this is, okay, so let me think about this. Pisces eclipse, opposite part of fortune and natal Saturn. What houses was this in for you? Be curious to hear that, Heather. I know, yeah, I think you were telling us that you've been going through some chronic health issues, right? But I hope that everything's going well with that. But that is fascinating to see that you're glowing, right? But I hope everything is going well with that, and that you're getting the care that you need with it as well. Steven says, it's all good. The friendship I thought was supportive ended up they were not. Yeah, it's a lot of times we make assumptions about relationships in our life, and sometimes when we get a nasty surprise that it isn't exactly what we thought, that can be disappointing. But you know what? It allows you to go out and find the types of friendships that will be supportive, and that find the people that you do resonate with. And I'm glad that you're here with us. Hopefully this is a supportive environment for you, Stephen. And I just appreciate you showing up each Friday. Okay. Jennifer says, Gemini rising here, and daughter and granddaughter are coming home next week from Florida. Eclipse in my 5th house. Oh my goodness. So there you go, right? Potentially understanding a new agreement with the daughter, granddaughter, 5th house, relating to children or legacies, things of that nature. Maybe there's some new inspiration for your own creative process, Jennifer, if you have something that you've been trying to think about putting out into the world potentially. Jennifer says, I had a great birthday party for my other granddaughter during the eclipse. Man, Jennifer, it sounds like you're actually doing all right, That sounds good. I'm glad that you're surviving this eclipse season. The Mars part of it may be in the 2nd house, so I guess if you're throwing those birthday parties, be careful of spending potentially, right? If you have Mars in the 2nd house, that could lead to some, aggressiveness with our budgets. So that's one thing to keep in mind if you're Gemini rising right now. Joel, I think Jolie's laughing at my Freudian slip there earlier. So Jennifer says, thinks Sag has great energy for teaching. Yeah, absolutely. Jupiter is a great teacher for sure. Jupiterian types can be great teachers. Robin is here. What's up, Robin? Nice to see you. This is Hi Spencer and crew. Robin from Helensburgh, California. Happy to be here. Sorry I'm a bit late. No worries, Robin. And I'm happy that you're joining us. And it's nice to see you, my friend. And always nice to see you in the chat here. And Robin's a Decan Walker, so love to be able to witness Robin's journey. And she brings a lot to our community. So thank you, Robin. Devin says, it's okay, Robin. Next time it'll cost you 1 Spencer stretch break. Right, there you go. Yeah. I think Devin's trying to remind me I should stretch out. It's like, what's the 45-minute mark? Yeah, maybe we should have a stretch break. That's funny. Oh, Jennifer says, ooh, 2nd house stuff. I just went to a social security workshop. Oh my goodness. Yeah, so that definitely is maybe some Mars in the 2nd house. Some learning maybe some tough truths about that potentially. Jolie says, Pisces rising. The past 2 years have been like unlearning to learn again. So if we look at this for Jolie, we put Pisces on the ascendant. Let's do that. Let's see where everything might be hanging out. So Jolie has Saturn retrograding in the first house, right? So think about that. Saturn retrograde, unlearning or unstructuring parts of your life that are probably going to be needing to be rebuilt and restructured. Excuse me. And you had that 8th house eclipse. But with the 5th house, Mars, right? Maybe some pressure from, I don't know if you have children, Jolie, or if you're in the middle of a creative process or anything like that. This could be some challenges through those vehicles, like through children, through creative process, through romantic entanglements. Sometimes Mars can create some conflicts within our safe spaces. So, I think this is a great opportunity to rebuild even stronger, especially when Saturn stations direct in mid-November. So that's something for you Pisces risings to really keep in mind, is that Saturn's going to start moving direct again. And one thing I think Saturn has been doing in Pisces, especially for Pisces rising, Saturn can show us in that sign the limitations of feeling like we just are going to, I don't know how to put it gently, the challenges of overestimating our ability. One of the things that we see with Jupiterian signs is oftentimes they will take leaps of faith, which I think are very important. Pisces rising in particular will take a leap of faith emotionally. They will try to act on their dreams and say, you know what, I'm just going to let the divine, God, the universe handle this, right? And oftentimes they will leave the details to the divine, which in certain circumstances is a very good thing. It's the energy of surrender. But sometimes we learn that just thinking that everything is going to be okay without paying attention to the details around it, that can put us in some sticky situations. So Saturn says, you know what? There are going to be some dreams that you can't just let the divine take care of and everything will be fine. Sometimes dreams are really hard work. Sometimes it's messy. Sometimes it's really mundane, like physical, dirty work to be able to create something that we can see within our imagination. And this Saturn is saying, hey, you didn't think of a couple of these things. Now it's important to understand your limitations. Pisces is one of the most limitless types of signs. They don't see limitations. That boundaries are not necessarily a Piscean's strong suit. And Saturn is saying, where are your boundaries? Where are the boundaries of your abilities? Where's the boundaries of your time? Where's the boundaries of your care? You see what I'm saying? Where are the boundaries of your emotional cup? Oftentimes Pisces will give and give and give and give to the point where they're just completely like on a puddle on the floor. And Saturn says, well, hey, you need some structure. If you don't want to be a puddle on the floor, you need to have a container, a solid container for that love, for that emotion, etc. And there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with having some positive structures to be able to contain all of that beautiful flexibility, all of that beautiful faith, all that beautiful compassion for other people. It's going to allow you to be an even more productive in those areas of life moving forward. Jolie says, exactly, LMAO. Astrology, the chart doesn't lie. You know what I mean, Jolie? The chart doesn't lie. And it's, again, there's going to be slightly different manifestations for each of us based on our particular charts, based on our particular lives, our backgrounds, the experiences we bring to it. But a lot of the themes, we can see the core essence of that thread that we share if we have similar placements. Yeah. Don't do that, Jolie says. It won't just magically appear. Good. Yeah. Again, manifesting dreams can be, it requires patience. I think that's another thing that Saturn and Pisces is teaching us, is having patience with our dreams. Some dreams will have to be let go of with Saturn and Pisces. Some of them we have to say, you know what, that just isn't appropriate for me right now. And other ones will actually concretize into being and come to fruition, come to completion. So Saturn, again, shows us both the way forward towards completion, and it also shows us the limitations of what we can bring into this world. All right, what else? How else are we doing here? So as we are recording this, we just look here at the clock. We've got Saturn making a trine to retrograde Saturn. So this is actually a very good opportunity, like for you Pisces risings, to have a nice, beautiful trine from Venus in your ninth house to Saturn in your ascendant, maybe helping you to shift belief systems around your dreams, around your limitations, or around your possibilities. Jennifer says, my Pisces rising friend is also going through what you've been talking about. Yeah, I mean, this is one of the easiest ways to engage with whole sign astrology, right? Whole sign houses is being able to say, well, where is this transit moving through? Which topic does this normally manifest as? And then you can start to see your eyes become entrained to see those things. This is one of the great, I think, mysteries unlocked about divination and oracular thinking is the concept of entrainment, of being able to tune in like a radio receiver to a set of symbols. And then you will be able to receive the signal that is being sent. I tend to believe that symbols are just, they're in the air, right? They're in the collective unconscious if you're a Jungian. And by our attention towards them, we can start connecting and making patterns. This is true not only for symbols, but just for things that we're interested in. For example, when I started learning about native pollinator plants like coneflowers, last season I fell in love with coneflowers, and I started seeing them everywhere in the neighborhood. I was like, there's a coneflower. Oh my God, there's one over there. They're everywhere, right? Like, because I had become focused and entrained to start to recognize and to appreciate that. And the same is true with astrology. This is why when we get hyper-fixated on methodology over essence, I think we're making a mistake. Doesn't mean that method isn't important. There are some things that are threads that we have to, and boundaries that we have to respect. Let's give our nod to Saturn here. But there are definitely ways to become entrained to different types of systems to be able to see similar essences through that. That's why I don't get super upset if people want to use tarot, astrology. You know, I tend to look to the natural world and to animal friends to give me messages as well, because I've been entrained to those things and I can see the overlap between them. This is why when I've done programs like this, I call it integrative divination. So I'm loving hearing the different ways that this is manifesting for people with the similar rising signs. Painter says, Saturn in Pisces is like finding the banks of the river when you thought you were in the ocean. And even if Pisces blesses you with an ocean, you will quickly find out it too has its own currents. Yes, that sweep you in its own direction. That can be the most surprising nature of Pisces. I like that. Yeah. The banks of the river when you thought you were in the ocean. That's nice. And you know what though? Like, but we're still immersed in water. We're still being carried somewhere, right? But there is equal beauty in a river as there is in an ocean. You know, I think that this is the thing. Scale is something that I've had a lot of reckoning with in my life. I used to be someone who had a very grandiose view of the world, of my role within it, or my desired role within it. This is probably partly as a Leo rising. Leo risings tend to do everything big. Like go big or go home is probably spoken by a Leo something. But as I've gotten older and as I've started to appreciate the little things and just the beauty of my backyard, I don't necessarily need to go visit a mountain, right? I don't have to. This is the thing. Here's an example of this. At one point in my late 20s, early 30s, I was like, you know what I want to do? I want to go visit every national park in America. like all 45 of them or whatever. And then I was like, you know what else I should do? I should visit all 450 nationally registered historical sites. Like, and I got the little stamp book and I visited a couple, and that's great. And there is amazing natural beauty to be seen. But I'm finding this a similar experience just going out in my backyard and witnessing the changes that happen over the course of one season, of one year, of multiple years. Just taking a walk in my neighborhood and walking through the woods, there's so many changes. If you really tune in, there's universes upon universes in 1 square foot, 1 square inch. So this idea of scale, Saturn may be helping to change the Piscean view of scale, the view that everything has to be oceanic, right? When the river will suffice, the stream will suffice. The puddle in your backyard is just as mystical and magical as the shore of the Atlantic. The drop of water that you catch in your hand from a rainstorm can show you a kaleidoscope of colors. So that to me, I think is a shift that we can have with Saturn and Pisces, and I really like the way that you contextualize that, Lauren. Jennifer was like, haha, just like when I got a new car, I saw it everywhere. Yeah, I went through that too, Jennifer. There was a point in time where I was in the market for a new car myself, and I really, really wanted a Honda CR-V. I was like, that's the one I want. Because I was like, oh, maybe it'll get good gas mileage and I can carry stuff in it. And everywhere I went, I saw that car. Although I will, in my defense, in the area that we live in, Jennifer, every other car on the street is a Honda CR-V in Ann Arbor, Michigan. But I would see them everywhere because I became entrained to it, right? And we didn't end up getting one. Like we're still a 1-car family at this point, and that's totally fine. Like it's less gas, less carbon footprint. I don't really need a second car right now. Working from home gives me that luxury. But I think that, yes, it works with flowers. It works with cars. It works with anything that we get passionate about. Castle Rock is here. Hey, what's up, friend? I believe you're joining us from Iowa. Are you my Iowa guy? You have to confirm that, see if my memory is serving me correctly. But it says, Castle Rock says, beautiful metaphor. I work at a native greenhouse, and one of my favorite pastimes is walking around the neighborhood and making note of what planting combos are attractive aesthetically. Yes. That particular is, if they were talking about that in Braiding Sweetgrass. Robin Wall Kimmer was talking about the combination of asters and goldenrods and the beautiful yellows and complementary purples. And she was talking about wanting to do a project in this in her botany degree, and people were looking at her like she was crazy, like oh, that's not scientific. And I'm like, no, it's poetic. What inspires us to do the science? Beauty, right? Curiosity. And one of the great things about her book is showing us that we don't have to be so dry about our science. We can be it can be a part of us, that we can be artists and scientists at the same time. We can be a part of nature rather than just a separate observer of it. And I think that's super important. Castle Rock says, husband and I have like 15 plants to still plant in the ground that I rehabilitated and brought home for free from the nursery I work at, including coneflowers. Wild. How synchronistic. Yeah. I have some asters that we got from our local farmers market and goldenrod that Tanya, she knew that I was reading this, and she's like, oh, I saw asters and goldenrod and got a couple of those. So yeah, I'm with you. Fall's a great time to plant stuff. It's a great time to sow native seed. I believe there's wildflower mixes that you can get. If you do, there's a really great company. I think it's called Prairie Moon Natives. I think it's a Minnesota company, but there's companies like that where you can get native wildflower mixes for your specific area. The stuff that you get at the big box stores like Lowe's, I made this mistake a few years ago where you'd get a wildflower mix, but a lot of it's just junk seed. It's not actually specific to your region. But if you find a native plant nursery, you can get these seed mixes that you can spread, and then you'll see it pop up the next year, and that's super awesome. And Castle Rock says, yes, Iowa City. Yes, I thought I thought my memory was serving me correctly there. I'm glad that it's still working. That's cool. Painted Turtle says, I couldn't agree more. I fall in love with the smallest of living things, the first raindrop, right? I mean, this is why I think that we'll be okay, even if we need to scale down. And I do think we do need to scale down as a culture. I think we need to learn to live with less. I think we need to take less and give more. I think that we need to have a reciprocal relationship, especially with nature, right? And when you start to appreciate the beauty of a raindrop, then when you're not having these expectations of grandiosity about like what you need to be happy. I think it's like it's living within our means, and sometimes our means, they don't have to be grandiose. They can be humble. There's humility in that. There's humility in being able to appreciate our backyard rather than needing to go on some expensive vacation to a national park somewhere far afield. That'll actually lower your carbon footprint, because you know what is very taxing to the earth? Jet fuel. So these are some of the things these are actually choices that we're making that could actually be very beneficial for each other moving forward. And that's not to say that we should never travel. I do think there are ways to travel in an ecologically friendly way. But I think that, the point is more about appreciating where we're at. Castle Rock says, literally, I was telling my husband about goldenrod last week, and once we knew what to look for, we couldn't stop seeing it. See, right? It just pops out, and I'm really enjoying understanding more of the native plants in my area. I'm starting to see plants that I recognize in the woods that just really didn't stick out to me before. And that's really nice, being able to, you see them as friends. You're like, hey buddy, what's up, goldenrod? What's up, aster? And you see that these things that you're planting in your native pollinator habitat actually are living out in your backyard in the woods, just on their own volition. And that's super fun to have that experience too. Castle says, went to an Amish nursery and it was cash only and couldn't get asters because I didn't have any cash. Oh no. Yeah, sometimes it's hard to when you only have that option, right? I think we had that challenge when we went to, we have a big native plant sale in Ann Arbor in springtime. I think I ran into a similar thing there. I think there were some Mennonite or Amish farmers there too that were selling stuff, but that's their thing, right? Being able to, you can't really have Apple Pay when you don't use like phones or electricity or whatever, however they're doing it. I know a lot of the Mennonite communities are a little bit more liberal with that. I actually have Mennonite ancestry. The Baumgartner family that came to Fort Wayne, Indiana, was where my great grandfathers, the Baumgartners, they were Mennonite deacons that came and settled in Indiana, and were some of the I have letters from the 1800s. They were some of the people that could read and write, and that was super cool to be able to see that. So that simplicity, that humility part that's woven within that appeals to me. I haven't always been able to stay true to those ideals, but it is something that I aspire to. Pain Eternal says, local libraries can also have a seed bank. Check there and look up the local seed bank to get native plants with generational strength. Nice. Love it. Yeah, Castle says, Prairie Moon is the best. Sorry for diverting the topic. Yeah, they are great. They will deliver stuff right to your door. You can get plant starts. You can get seed mixes. I'm thinking about ordering a seed mix that I can just spread in some of the areas that need to be filled in my yard. We've been planting a lot of plugs, but there's a few wild spaces that I think would benefit from that. Pantero says, a good way to reset is also to stick your toe in the mud. Just start with a toe. It works every time. Just the toe. Just the toe. I try to go outside without my shoes on every once in a while. Although I will say I do have a neighbor that has two pit bulls that like to come into my yard and poop. So I have to be careful about going outside without my shoes, and be careful for those landmines that my lovely neighbor's dog loves to leave me. But I digress. Jennifer says, goldenrod is everywhere in my yard. I can't keep it down. Nor should you. It's food for the wild animals around you, for the birds. I have these prairie blazing stars that the goldfinches love to land on. It's super cool that they're just like these aerial masters that can land on these stalks and leave the seeds, leave the dying flowers, leave the echinacea and coneflower up there, because that's food for your local community of birds and insects, etc. You'll be amazed at what you see. Set up a little trail cam, and you'll be amazed at what you see when you're not there. Goldfinches are notoriously shy, so you might not see that they're using it, but they do. Our obsession with cleanliness and having everything be completely orderly is misguided, in my opinion. Dimpy says, totally agree with the beauty of goldenrod, though I have to dig most of them out because they become so invasive, trying to overtake space from other plants. Right. Yeah, everything's a balance, right? And if you want to have diversity there, sometimes you do have to dig a few things out, and there's nothing wrong with that. So if you dig them out, give them to your neighbor and let them plant them in their yard. Like this is what happens in our neighborhood in Ypsilanti a lot of the times. People will have sort of an aggressive plant that they want to dig out for space for some other stuff, and then they'll share it with their neighbor. This is how I got some alliums like this. They're little like onion plants that shoot up these Susian globes that are really beautiful, and those were gifts from a neighbor. And we also got, I think, some geraniums, wild geraniums that people were digging out because they spread too. So this is the thing. Share it. If you're growing it and you have more than you need, share it with your friends. That's the essence of generosity and reciprocity. Yeah. Tiffy says, for the moment and the next month, I will still enjoy their radiance. Absolutely. Castle Rock says, right, live and learn. Our mums are insane this year, so I'm not that upset. By the way, you can put mums in the ground. Just prune around the 4th of July for later, longer-lasting blooms. Nice. Yeah, I think we have some orange and red mums in a certain area. We had some sunflowers too that were just from volunteers from a bird feeder, and I think they're interspersed with the mums, so it's kind of cool. All right, so yeah, this is great. I love talking gardening with all of you. If you have any questions, astrological, garden, sports, philosophical, feel free to put in the chat. We're at about the hour mark here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little stretch break here. So this is who was late today. I can't remember who was being punished for the stretch break or something. Yeah, stretch it out. Get yourself a little drink of water. Move yourself a little. Move your hips a little bit so you don't get locked up. Move your arms. Get a little drink. If you do me a huge favor during the stretch break, if you could like the video for me, that would do me a huge favor. That actually gets our channel out to more people. It brings amazing people into the chat that have unique perspectives and really add to what we're doing here. This channel to me has become a very collaborative effort. I'm a facilitator, but we try to highlight the group mind, the group think, and people's contributions. So bringing more people into that is always an excellent way to support the channel. If you want to make a donation to the work I'm doing here today, you can buy a super chat or a super sticker today with a little $ on the YouTube chat. Or you can go to buymeacoffee.com, which is basically Patreon. It's a one-off type of Patreon type of thing. It's a crowdfunding website. I know it sounds a little weird, Buy Me a Coffee, but it's a way that creators can have their channel supported. So if you want to go over there, that's an opportunity as well. The other thing I will say, friends, is this is enrollment season for the classes that I have. So this is the last weekend to sign up for the Decan Walk 24-25. It starts this Monday, October the 7th. The Dignity and Devotion 7 Traditional Planets webinars start October the 12th, which is a week from tomorrow. And then the guided group study, The Hobbit, begins on Monday, October the 14th, which is a week from Monday. So if you're interested in those things, it's time to sign up. If you need a payment plan, or if you're struggling and you need a sliding scale, just feel free to reach out. Spencer Michaud Astrology at gmail.com, and I'd be happy to work something out for you. If you want to sign up for all three, you get a bonus reading. So got to keep plugging in a little bit, but thanks for your patience with all that. All right, who else? What else we got here? Oh, Castle Rock says, you should see if a nursery is hiring. You're more knowledgeable than most of my customers. you know, I have worked in those types of environments. One of my favorite jobs that I had when I was in college was as a landscaper. I would go out and, lay mulch and plant things, and it was super fun. I have a Taurus moon. I do love doing that kind of thing. I think I worked at a plant nursery at one point in the past. I can't really remember. I feel like I may have spent some time at a place like Lowe's or something like that in the very distant past. but yeah, those types of jobs are fun for me. Although I like putting the energy into my backyard. But yes, I do like helping people understand and appreciate nature. And I've been learning so much about native plants, and maybe at some point we can do a workshop on native plants and how maybe the astrological signification of goldenrods and asters and things of that nature. Maybe there's a way we can overlap creating a garden with understanding its symbolism. I think that would be a cool idea. Maybe there's something like that we could figure out. Jolie says, if you have Jupiter and Saturn in the same sign, does that put a strain on Jupiter? Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a good question. So let's see what we've got here, Jolie. If you have Jupiter and Saturn in the same sign, does that put a strain on Jupiter? Short answer, yes. I'm speaking from experience. Here, if you're curious, I'm not really shy about sharing my chart. So here is an example of this, Jolie. See this? There's Jupiter in Virgo and Saturn and Mars in Virgo. And what I will say is that particular topic in my life, the second house, resources, money, etc., is always a very mixed bag. And Jolie, maybe you were born similar. Maybe you're similar age range as me, because us 1980 babies, we have that big Virgo stack up with Jupiter, Saturn, and Mars. And wherever that is placed, that particular house is going to be so topsy-turvy. Like, there are going to be some amazing benefits that Jupiter will bring you, even in its exiled form. Okay, I've been very blessed with some parts of my resource financial life. And then there's going to be other parts that are super challenging. Whenever I have a second house perfection year and Jupiter, Saturn, and Mars are all activated, here's an example. The last one I had was, I believe, 2018. And I got a full ride scholarship to the United Astrology Conference in Chicago, which is basically like Astrology Olympics. It's where all the astrologers from all around the world come and give lectures and things like that. And I was just getting into Hellenistic astrology, and that was my introduction to the community. And it was basically all paid for. It was in a place that when my mom was still around. I stayed at her house and just like took the train in. So I didn't have to pay for lodging. I didn't have to pay for the conference. And it was just a wonderful experience. That same year, though, I had a lot of financial responsibilities. I had some changes in my family where I had, I had a custody change where my daughter came to live with me in that year, and it was very expensive. It was new responsibilities that I took on, but it was expensive. The court fees were very expensive. So it was like one of the most amazing things that was happening and one of the most challenging things that were happening all at once, and a lot of responsibility. So yes, I think that it depends on what else you have in the sign. I know with this stack up I have with Jupiter, Saturn, and Mars, it depends on which of those planets is activated. Right now, I'm in a Mars year, and I'm generally very frugal with Saturn in the second house, but with Mars activated, there's been some impulse buys in this year, and now I've had to kind of start circling around, and the Saturn checks and balances of that are are important, and restructuring and slowing down. I think when you have like Mars and Saturn in the same sign, you have a one foot on the gas, one foot on the brake type of experience. But with Jupiter Saturn, it could also be limiting as far as your expansive qualities, right? Where you might want to expand what you're doing. And Jolie said you were a Pisces rising, right? So this is in your seventh house. So you might have this experience in your relationships. You might have some really beautiful experiences with partners, but then there might be a lot of responsibilities that you have, or some limitations within that. So that's, yeah, I think it definitely does. It does play out like that. And I will say this, it isn't one or the other. Like it can, just like that year that I described, it's kind of a mixed bag. And it also depends on whether you're a night or a day chart. I believe you said you were a Libra sun, so you'd be a day chart. So Saturn isn't necessarily as challenging of a planet as it would be if you were born during the nighttime. So oftentimes day people will respond better to the challenges that Saturn presents than if you have a night chart. Whereas Mars can be the real problematic planet. Oh, Jolie says Scorpio sun. Okay. Still, so you have a ninth house sun in whole sign, right? So in the ninth house, it's still a day birth, right? So you're, if you're Pisces rising though, by whole sign, all of that placement would still be in the seventh. So I hope that answers your question. Let's see. Okay, I'm just going back here. We have some nice comments that I missed. Robin says, it's me stretching punishment. No, Robin, you should stretch. Like you learned all those new exercises for stretching out those hips, right? So stretch it out. Don't sit too long. Like, oh man, I was glad to see you getting some relief from some challenging circumstances, friend. Castle Rock says, I see you at a crunchy mom and pop locally owned greenhouse. Your perspective is rich and you'd be able to engage people on so many levels. Yeah, that could be some future manifestation potentially. I think that Tanya and I have always like visualized living on a farm of some sort and having more land. And I don't think that dream is completely dead. I mean, we did end up purchasing a home, and we're trying to make this home as comfortable and the space as native as possible. But I could see a future where we're doing something like that, where maybe we own the local greenhouse and selling native plants or something like that. That'd be cool. Tracy says, how can you see gardening in the chart? I think there's a number of different ways. I mean, if you want to look at my chart, I think that having a Taurus moon on the midheaven probably makes my love for nature very public. I think having an exalted moon in an earth sign oftentimes can be represented as having a green thumb. I think having some placements in the fifth house could also speak to that. There's a lot of different ways you could interpret that. I think people that have earth sign placements may have more of that type of experience. But I think anybody can appreciate nature. I think that it is not exclusive to one sign placement, to one element placement. I do think that there are certain charts that are more thinky. Like if you have a really air dominant chart, you might be more in your head idealizing things. But let's say a lot of that's in Libra. You might be trying to create beauty. My mom, for example, is a Libra rising, and a Gemini sun, Pisces moon, but she loved gardening. She had a beautiful cottage garden, and she didn't have a ton of earth in her chart. She did have Saturn in Capricorn, but she had a bunch of Cancer stuff too. So Cancer, Taurus, all those things where you appreciate homey things. But I've seen people who have like a ton of Aquarius things that are going out and changing landscapes for their local communities. It's so many different ways that can manifest. But I do think that the gardening, different flowers and plants do have different planetary associations. And this is something we're going to talk about a lot in our Dignity and Devotion webinars with Tanya. Is like, for example, with the moon, there is a number of lunar plants that and lunar animals that you can connect with and in a devotional practice with the moon. Things that have a lot of water in them, or very round or very lunar, right? Things that that bloom in the nighttime. We have this weird plant that has these beautiful big white bell flowers. I'm trying to remember what it's called, like devil's trumpet or something like that, some crazy name. And it blooms at night, and it's very lunar, right? So there are ways to connect with astrological significations and with the plant world. All right. Jolie says, I have Jupiter, Saturn in the North Node there in Virgo. Right, okay. So I'm going back in time here. Jennifer says, check out this place by me called Gateway Farm. They grow organically, have tours and teaching, and always are looking for help. When I retire, I hope to be part of it. Nice. Yeah, I'm a little bit of a hermit lately. I think that's the type of job I could get into, being outside and doing things with plants. Being in large groups of people in person right now is not my jam. But yeah, the more time I can spend outside, I think the better. Ray is here. Ray Weather, nice to see you. Says, I just entered a sun-ruled second house perfection year with Saturn and Venus co-present in the fourth house. No, wait, so it says sun-ruled second house perfection year with Saturn and Venus co-present. Sun in the fourth house. Okay, so Ray, sun, let me think about this. Having to think about the chart without seeing the chart is an exercise in visualization. It's a good one to do. Okay, sun ruled second house perfection year. So Leo would be your second house. So you are Cancer rising with Saturn and Venus co-present in the second house, and your sun is in the fourth house, which if you were measuring it by a whole sign would be Libra sun. Am I right? So we've got a Libra sun with Saturn and Venus in Leo and a Cancer rising. Did we get that right? You'll have to confirm that in the chat if that's what we're dealing with here, and then we could talk further about that. Painted Turtle says, I would love a gardening class. A tarot deck you might like is Nature Spirit Tarot by Jean Hertzel. She did great with symbolism of traditional tarot through the lens of nature and animals. Ooh, I will check that out. I'll find it. Nature Spirit Tarot by Jean Hertzel. That's a good one. Yeah, I one of my favorite book clubs that I've done so far is Braiding Sweetgrass with Robin Wall Kimmerer. And also we did a beautiful book club with Sophie Strand's The Flowering Wand. That was an awesome book that really helped connect us with nature. Robin Wall Kimmerer has another book coming out talking about the reciprocity with nature and indigenous wisdom. She is an indigenous botanist. And what is it called? It is, serviceberry. It's something that's got serviceberry in the title. It's coming out in November. I'm really excited about that. Maybe we can do a book club on that coming up soon too. Yeah, because these things, astrology is nature. You know what I'm saying? It is the observation of cycles. So it is a natural combination to think about astrology and gardening and nature, native plants, because you're observing natural cycles. You're observing the changes in nature. You're observing the changes in the planets and connecting all of those things with your lived experience. To me, it's the most natural of bedfellows, so to speak. Yeah. Oh, I got some fun comments here today. Let's see. Pedro says, there's some talk about Jupiter overcoming Saturn since that 2020 conjunction. Do you find that more beneficial in a chart? Do you find that more beneficial in a chart where they are in the same sign? Okay, let me think about that for a second. There is some talk about Jupiter overcoming Saturn since the 2020 conjunction. Do you find that more beneficial in a chart when they are in the same sign? Uh, so let's see. Let's go back to the chart here. You don't need to see my chart forever here. Um, so Jupiter, right now, Saturn and Jupiter are squared, right? And one of the things we talk about, and hopefully I'm interpreting this correctly, Painted Turtle. One of the things that we see with Jupiter and, okay, Painted Turtle clarifies, when Jupiter is ahead of Saturn in the same sign. I'm not sure. I think that, one of the things that's interesting about Jupiter and Saturn cycles is it's actually a very important mundane transit when they conjoin with one another, especially in Hellenistic astrology. So like those of us who have Jupiter and Saturn in the same sign, we were heading either away from or towards a Jupiter-Saturn conjunction potentially. And I believe the one that I was heading towards in 1980 was the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in Libra, which was a preview of the air sign conjunctions that we saw happen again with Jupiter and Saturn conjoining in Aquarius in late 2020, I believe. So those were thought of as really important changing of the guards for culture. You had, and a lot of it comes from the mythology around Saturn, aka Kronos, and Zeus, aka or Jupiter, aka Zeus, and the challenges of overcoming the old order and bringing in new life, overthrowing the old king, so to speak. As far as the position in the chart, like whether Jupiter is ahead of Saturn, that's tough to say. I think that if Jupiter is ahead of Saturn in the chart, then I'm guessing it would be applying to Saturn, which maybe that's a little bit more fortuitous than having, a Saturn that isn't having Jupiter applying to it. So I guess I could see it in that regard. But I hope that answers your question. Let's see. Ray says, I've got nothing to discuss. Just got excited when you were talking about your second house year. Yeah, second house years can be really nice, especially it sounds like you have Venus in there. So anytime Venus is activated in the chart, if it's well placed, that's reason for celebration. So Ray, I wish you the best of luck in your second house year, my friend. And thank you for joining us here today. Let's see. Jolie says plants and planets. Yeah, that would be fun. There's some other astrologers out there that combine, botany and plant magic and things of that nature with astrology. Like I said, it's a very natural combination. It's something that there's actually quite a bit of literature around that. I'm trying to remember there's like plant grimoires or something like that. I have a few. I have occult botany books that I think would be really great to dive into. I don't have it right in front of me, the name of it, but I just remember moving that to a new shelf recently. Tracy says, thank you, Spencer. Thank you, Tracy. Nice to see you. Says, I'm hot air. LOL. Libra sun, Leo sun, Libra rising, Gemini moon. I'm outside as much as possible in nature. I crave it. Yeah, see, I mean, that's the thing. Nobody has what's the word I'm looking for? Nobody has a monopoly on nature, not one sign or placement, etc. Sometimes it's just built into your family history. I come from a family of biology professors and Mennonite deacons who worked on the land. They were farmers, like they're farmers, and then that trickled down the line to spiritual like leaders, and then you also had people who were working very hard for conservation. Like my great grandfather Howard Michaud was one of the leading conservation people in the 40s, and spent much of his life in the Indiana state parks as a guide for people. And eventually, I'm not afraid to keep his name alive. Like he got a Lifetime Achievement Award from Al Gore at the White House for his efforts in conservation. Like he went to like some like conferences in Switzerland with like Aldo Leopold and John Muir and people like that, like to talk about conservation and protecting the land. So that's something that was passed down to me from my ancestors as a value. And maybe that can be seen in the chart, but we inherit things from our family as well. And you can look at it as a particular placement, or you can just see it as a family inheritance. Jennifer says, I'm going to have Uranus and Saturn on my ascendant exact in 2032. Okay. Jennifer, sometimes you say that this Gemini rising Jennifer is just like, all right, let's just throw something out left field. So you're like, well, I hope it goes well. How many years from now? I'm not making fun of you, Jennifer. It's just funny. In the next eight years from now, I think that one of the things I find amusing is when we're super excited about something that's so far away that we can't possibly prepare for it at the moment. Like, for me, I'm like, what the hell is going to happen Sunday? Like I need to figure out how to deal with this aspect. And she's on 2032 already, but that's why I love you, Jennifer. All right. Yes, I got it right, Ray says, as far as the placements in my mind. So I'm glad I was able to get that. It's a good exercise to be able to see something just without the benefit of the chart and be able to make those connections. That can really help with your memorization techniques. Castle Rock says, I was just going to mention the tarot and planet correspondences. I'm sure T. Susie Chang's podcast would offer some insight. Oh, I love Susie Chang. One of my favorite diviners out there. And she's got some really earthy placements too. So I think she probably has a lot of, connections with the earth. But it's not a guarantee. I know some earth sign folks that are very like antsy in nature. And a lot of it was just an inherited fear of insects or something like that. Like, so you never know. Okay. Tom says, I have Saturn and Jupiter in Aries. I think of it as Saturn gives Jupiter structure and form, and Jupiter tells Saturn to lighten up. I like that. Yeah. I see that. Yeah, I see that. I feel that push and pull in my own life with having both of those co-present planets of sometimes it feels like wrestling yourself, like you want to do something fun and then there's this other voice like, I got to do this hard thing. Or there's like, oh, I got to do this hard thing. And then Jupiter's like, why don't you go do something fun? It's trying to manage both of those voices can be a challenge. But yeah, I agree. Painted Turtle says, that was insightful, Spencer. Thank you. Oh, thank you, friend. I'm glad that you're finding benefit within the talk today. Castle Rock says, Gemini moons are best, Tracy, for real. I always feel so seen by them as a Libra sun, Aquarius moon, Mercury ruled Virgo ascendant. Nice. Okay, let me see what else we got. Castle Rock says, would love to hear your thoughts about the current condition of both Venus and Mars, as my natal chart has this very tricky combo. That's a good question. Let's take a look at it. All right, Castle Rock. Remind me of your name again, Castle. Chris? I can remember where you live, but I don't know if I have your name right. And I apologize if I didn't remember it, but I see your usernames, friends, much more than I see your real names. But I always like learning your real names, if you're comfortable. So, okay, Venus and Mars. Chris is your husband. Okay. Corey, that's right. Corey from Iowa. Gotcha. All right, sorry, Corey. I knew there was a Chris associated with you around there somewhere. So it was floating around, right? It was floating around. Okay. So Corey, Venus in Mars. Well, and let's, you put your birth information in there. Let's see how it's interacting with your chart. What do you say? Let's do that. 92, the year of the monkey. Okay. So 4:53 a.m. and Joliet, Illinois. Okay, so this is Chris, or as I did again, Corey. This is Corey from Iowa, and we'll just put this here. This is Corey. Okay. So, okay. So I get it now. So what Corey is bringing up is that he has uh, both Mars in Cancer and Venus in Scorpio natally, which is where these particular planets are are transiting right now. So Corey, you're probably really feeling this astrology, right? And happy early birthday, by the way. Okay, like birthday on Sunday. It's going to be hopefully a fun solar return for you. So a couple things, Corey. So you have Mars in the second decan of Cancer. And these are some of the types of things we talk about in a much longer reading as well. So we don't have time to get through all of those things, but here's just a little like example of what we would do if we were talking. The second decan of Cancer is associated with the Three of Cups. And all of us right now are going through a Mars in Cancer Three of Cups type of transit. Mars is a planet that likes to sever and separate and create conflict. So it also is a planet that is associated with misfortune or malus tuque, okay, that may not necessarily be our fault. So we may experience bad luck or bad fortune that's really not our fault. So here's an example. Now, the good news for Corey is that even though he has a fallen Mars and an exiled Venus, both of those planets are in the night sect, okay? So they may not be as difficult as they would be if he had those planets in exile and fall in a day chart, okay? So this is one thing to think about. So with Mars in Cancer 2, that's the second decan of Cancer. Safe spaces. It's called the walled garden. I'm imagining that Corey may have had some challenging friendships when he was younger. Maybe didn't feel like part of the group. Maybe the group that you were supposed to be trying to fit in with, you felt exiled from, or that you had some bad luck with friends, or you had some aggressive friends, or you had like some passive aggressive friends, like, and this could, it's uncomfortable when we expect support from an area of our life, right? With Cancer on the 11th house cusp, we look to our friends and we think of them as family. We think of our community as our family. And when Mars is there, and when there's those challenges with friends that we consider family, that can be very destabilizing. So that's one part of it, potentially. When we have Venus in the second decan of Scorpio, and this is a good question, Corey, because basically since your birthday is Sunday, we're analyzing your solar return, and everyone benefits from that because this is where these planets are right now. Okay, so Castle Rock, Corey says, I moved all around the country as a kid and had a broken family, so not much support, thrown into uncomfortable situations, nailed it. Yeah, totally, right? Just not fitting in, like being at it in the fall, right? And here's another interesting thing to think about with that, Corey. Mars in your chart is the ruler of your third house of your like local environment, right? And of your eighth house, okay, of like shared resources with others. So this could potentially also speak to feeling like at the bottom of the totem pole, wherever you're at, right? Like when we move to a new place, the hierarchies are already established. Like we're trying to fit in to a new place when these relationships have already been formed, and kids can be very fickle. They can be very cruel to the new guy, right? I experienced this, Corey. Like I moved around a lot as a kid too. Also broken family. I had 5 different step-parents growing up, and I moved states at the end of my freshman year of high school. So I actually started high school, and this was actually after starting in a new school my freshman year. And then my dad met a new partner and then had to move after making friends in high school, then trying to integrate into a new high school in the beginning of my sophomore year. So I get it. It's hard. It's not easy. So this is one thing that we're going to talk about in dignity and devotion is what is the planet's impetus? What is the actual planet's goal? And Mars creates conflict. It creates severing and separation. Corey had to separate from his local environment multiple times, right? And that is what Mars was doing, ruling the third house. So we talk about the relationships of where the planet is, what it wants to do, and how it's providing for the topics that it's connecting to. So that planet is connecting to its third house. Now, the interesting thing about that is that Venus is in Scorpio. And Venus in Scorpio, the second decan of Scorpio is associated with the Six of Cups, which has a very nostalgic vibe to it. Like I was talking about the pain of return, right? The pain of looking back. So I can imagine with having to move a lot, maybe there was a lot of idealizing the place that you had been before. Maybe there was a longing for the places that you were forced into moving away from, potentially. There could be some very deeply enmeshed relationships with friends. So like, because we are having to make extra effort to fit in over and over and over again, oftentimes we can find either other exiled people. Like I know for me, when I first moved to Michigan, my best friend became a dude that had moved there from Illinois, just like I had a few years earlier. And we became very deeply enmeshed. He was a Scorpio, and like we were thick as thieves, right? And so this might also be showing you that some of your friend relationships can be very complementary, but also there's some situations where you can get involved with like the decan is called mutual distillation. So think about circulating circuits of exchange and circulating either positive qualities between each other or negative ones. So if you fall in with the wrong crowd, it can be very easy to get sucked into this like reciprocal relationship of toxicity. Okay. Corey says, the kids in Georgia in 4th grade made up a song about me and would chant, "The ugly Illinois boy, clap, clap, repeat. I'm cute now, though." Oh, sorry, Corey. That sounds terrible. So much trauma, right? Like in our early childhoods, that's not fun. Yeah, I had a few experiences like that. I had a bottle of lotion dumped on my head in the gym class when I was in 6th grade or something. Like people do weird, stupid things when they're young. Yeah, it wasn't a fun experience. But hopefully it made us stronger. Hopefully by being forged in the fire, we will learn compassion for other people. I think that some of the beauty of having a fallen or exiled planet, twofold. First of all, our experiences, Corey, of not fitting in probably actually made us more resilient. It gave us the ability to probably get along with a lot of different people because it was a survival mechanism that we had to learn. This is one of the things I think that for me with like I have Venus in Gemini, like it's like I was in so many different environments that I had to see things from multiple perspectives to learn how to fit in, right? And I think the other thing too is when a planet is in its fall, there's nowhere to go but up. So I think that when you start off at the bottom, you learn that resiliency that helps you build a confidence moving forward. You may not have challenging friends now because you maybe have learned how to treat people with kindness and as family, because of the suffering that you went through. And people that have exiled and fallen planets can become extraordinarily compassionate if they choose to take those experiences and turn them into character building, right? And same thing with Venus exiled. An exiled planet, it is about living in a way that does not necessarily fit in with society, right? And we all have different ways that we either feel like we're part of the in crowd or where we're living on the fringe. Corey, you have you have a fallen sun, you have an exiled Venus, you have Saturn and the moon in Aquarius, okay? Second decan of Aquarius, and then Mars in Cancer. Like and Jupiter exiled. So you have almost every planet except for Saturn, the moon, and Mercury in some kind of quote unquote ill-dignified placement, but feeling compassion for the exile, right? And especially with moon and Saturn, one of your jobs, Corey, with the second decan of Aquarius is to be an intermediary between the center and the fringe, to be able to communicate. That is a Mercury ruled decan where we see the Six of Swords that is basically helping us to transition from one shore to the other. And your early childhood experiences are helping you to help others to transition from one experience to another, from one place to another, to be that communicator between worlds. And there are no mistakes in the world. Those experiences shaped you, and those are the types of things that actually have helped give you your gifts as a peacemaker, really, with this chart. So I hope that that's helpful for you. Robin says the angel's trumpet is either Datura or Brugamancia. Oh, nice. Oh, yes, the devil's trumpet, right? The angel's trumpet. That's a better word for it. The moonflower. Castle Rock Corey says just a testament to the fallen Mars and Venus. He says it's wild how you're absolutely nailing it. Oh, I feel good. I feel good about that. Literally, nice. I'm gonna cry happy tears. Oh, thank you, friend. Appreciate you. I'm glad that's astrology can be so validating, even when we're witnessing someone's past hardship or trauma, right? That actually can be the most validating. Realizing that, hey, it's not something we didn't screw up, or it's not because we're inherently flawed. It's this stuff was baked into our fate, and it doesn't mean that we have to suffer endlessly, but it does. It being able to see meaning, find meaning within that suffering is very important. And this is coming from a 12th house Sun and Mercury, friends. That's the house of suffering and sorrow. So I've had my fair share of it in my life, and can sometimes continue to shoot myself in the foot for some of those things. But one of my favorite astrologers, Demetra George, talks about 12th house placements. And I think 12th house, there's also a little bit of an affinity with planets that are exiled or fallen. If you choose to become what she describes as the bodhisattva, and this is not me saying that I have any advanced knowledge or anything like that. I don't mean it in that way. It is the ability to take that suffering and help alleviate the suffering of others. That's it. Just through compassion, witnessing, etc. So if you have those negative experiences, acknowledge them, but let them shape the way that you treat people for the better. And I think that's a great way to utilize those placements. Now, here's another thing. If you're just really tired of having those effed up planets and you're like, what is it? My turn. That's when something like planetary remediation can be helpful. If you're struggling to learn the benefits from those things, that's where maybe a little bit of astrological magic can help. I wear all sorts of materia all the time. I have some challenging placements in my own chart, and I try to accentuate the good things. I love Tanya's moon and Taurus stuff. So I wear that every day because that's one of the better planets in my chart. And I want to lean into that. So lean into our good planets. But I wear stuff that mitigates maybe my exiled Jupiter or the sun stuff. I wear her Leo stuff now so that I can, maybe it boosts my confidence a little bit, because with the sun in the 12th house, my confidence, it can be fluctuating, right? It could be a point of contention. So, let's see. Painted Turtle says, I love that fallen planet's perspective. Nowhere to go but up. Yeah, I mean, that is a really great way to look at it, because the truth of the matter is that there are going to be times where we're not at the top of the wheel of fortune. But the key is it's a wheel, right? You know, we're all probably going to have points in our life where we are hopefully finding some success, but there's going to be dark nights of the soul. And I do think that one of the best ways to engage with astrology is not to like keep score with your astrological dignity. First of all, it's just understanding what types of things you are dealing with in your chart. But I think ultimately the key is connecting with the hub of the wheel, the center, where you can witness those changes, the risings and the fallings, the summers, the springs, the falls and the winters. But you still are holding on to something that is eternal, the essence that is eternal, the essence that is you, that is unchanging. That's an even more important lesson when we have planets that are quote unquote, ill dignified. It is more so a technical term than a character flaw. Like if anybody tells you that your fallen planets make you a bad person, you should find a new astrologer, because that's not true. Sometimes the people with the most effed up charts are some of the kindest, most compassionate people I've ever met. So yeah, I agree. Painted turtle. Jolie says, I agree. It helps you to see that it wasn't imagined. It was real. Yes, exactly. It was real. We went through this stuff. It wasn't all in our head, right? We've been in exile. We had to move a bunch, and the chart literally speaks to it. So absolutely. Corey says, right. I never fit in anywhere. I used to see it as a weakness. Now it's one of my favorite things. Right. And that's also true of that Moon Saturn conjunction, Corey. Is you are a citizen of no world, but a citizen of everywhere at the same time. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, and that is actually can be really a beautiful thing, and that the gift of objectivity can be very helpful in many situations. It says also like you have developed some pretty intense ride or die type of friendships. Only have like 3 friends. Yeah, me too. I can count my true real like I talk to every week friends maybe on 1 or 2 hands. I mean, I do feel very connected to my astrological group and community, and especially people that we like, the Decan Walkers and people we go through classes with. I feel a bond with people, but yeah, like as far as people like where I'm gonna call up and complain about my day, like, there's only a couple of those. So it's important to have those, and it's important not to take them for granted, So, and here's the thing too: as a professional musician and teacher, I came in contact with a lot of acquaintances over my life, and it was hard for me to have superficial relationships even with my acquaintances, because that's just not how I roll. But since the pandemic, that's changed a lot of things. My acquaintance quota has been drastically reduced, which actually has helped me really appreciate those ride or die friends, Corey, and even be more grateful for this community and this ability to connect. This is why I love this being a two-way conversation. We're hanging out. We're teaching each other. We're learning from each other. This channel isn't just, I know it says Spencer Michaud Astrology, but it is something where we are co-creating this experience together. And I've since had so much more fun having it be an interaction with a community than when I was just talking into the void. And I tell you what, that to me, it fills me up. So thanks for being here, friend. And I'm happy we were able to witness some of your journey. Jennifer says, interesting, Corey has a Chiron North node in his 8th house ruled by Mars too. Yeah, I mean, let's see, Chiron. So Jennifer, just a heads up. So the Chiron in this chart in the 8th house is transiting Chiron. Okay. So his natal Chiron is in the 12th house. So it's easy to get tripped up on that with these bi-wheels, right? We have to make sure we're looking at the right thing. But yeah, so the Chiron in the 12th house, a little bit different. That one might be some fear of visibility potentially, with a strong maybe desire to be visible, but a fear of it also with Chiron and Leo in the 12th. Um, but look at Corey here today. You like conquering those fears and becoming visible and sharing their story and helping us benefit from witnessing his journey. You know, like again, this is what we do in Decan Walk. You know, if this is the type of thing that you enjoy, uh, Decan Walk is a really great opportunity to do that over the course of an entire year. It's basically like we're do, we're getting little mini readings for an entire year and benefiting from each other's shared experiences. Yeah. Man Turtle says this is all relating to what I shared about my kids' struggles too. I see them getting super resilient, and Corey is a bit of light as to why I shouldn't get so pissed. Yeah, see, this is what we're getting. This is. I love to see it. Lauren, thank you for saying that, because by witnessing someone else's journey, we can see how we can take that experience and bring change to our own life. See the reciprocity that comes with that? By being able to have compassion for other people, it helps us to make changes in our life too. It's a beautiful thing when that happens, so I really appreciate that. Oh, Jolie, thank you so much for the super sticker, my friend. Thank you so much for your generosity. Appreciate you. Really appreciate you supporting the channel and just for being here today. I mean, I think you're a new name unless you've changed usernames, but I appreciate you being here and thank you so much for your generosity. All right, so let me go back here. What do we got? Castle Rock says, last note, my Mercury is making no aspects, and that's always been a felt sense of yelling into the void diplomatically, because it's in Libra, right? So Mercury not making any aspects. Okay, so the last thing I'll say about this, Corey, is with that Mercury, a lot of the communication is with third decan of Libra, surrounds increasing that which is lacking and decreasing that which is excessive. That decan is associated with Nemesis. That's a goddess that restored right proportion to the twists and turns of fate. Okay? So your communication style could really be about, I would say that my guess would be, you may enjoy taking the opposite energy of someone if they are going to extremes. Let's say someone's really angry, you're probably really peaceful. If someone's really passive, you probably get really fired up. I know this from like having this part of spirit in that decan. That's something that I tend to do sometimes too. I'm always kind of playing counterbalance to people's energy. And that could be a way to think about that as well. And you may do that in your job as well, because that Mercury is hosting your midheaven. All right, yeah, Jolie says, the wheel always turns. The wheel is always turning. Yep. Pan Turtle says, my kids actually handle it really well, better than I would have at that age. Well, there you go. You've raised some resilient kids there, friend. Jolie says, I have Uranus conjunct my sun and an out-of-bounds Mercury. I'm never going to see things like everyone else, and I love that. Yeah, out-of-bounds Mercury is fun, right? That is definitely a fun position to have in the chart. So I'll bring the transits back up just so you can see this, friends. So thank you, Corey, for sharing your stories with us and with your for your vulnerability on here as well. Really appreciate that. That's one thing I've appreciated about the groups that I've been so fortunate to be a facilitator of, is their vulnerability really allows us to learn about ourselves. So this out-of-bounds Mercury is an interesting idea, Jolie, right? Where your mind doesn't necessarily think in the same way that is, quote unquote, the socially acceptable way. And yeah, and that could be a secondary symbolism with the sun conjoined Uranus. That's multiple testimonies. That's the word I was looking for. A lot of the times we'll see a particular character trait or something that we see tangibly in our lives spoken to in a number of different ways. And this is why I think that it's okay to do Hellenistic and modern astrology, because those multiple testimonies can be speaking towards similar things sometimes. So that's pretty cool. Chris says, I have Chiron in Leo in the 12th, and I feel that. Oh, wow. So we've got, is this Corey's Chris or a different Chris? we've got these two Chirons in the 12th. And he says, Castle Rock says, oh my God, I've never heard that interpretation of Chiron in the 12th. My husband, a Virgo rising, has Chiron in the 12th too. And we were both like, yes, right? Yeah. So the way that, yeah, Chris and Corey can think about that Leo Chiron in the 12th. Chiron, I don't super use asteroids a ton, but my understanding of Chiron is that it can speak towards a wound that we have that we potentially try to teach and encourage others around, but that is hard for us to heal in our own life. So here's an example. Chiron was the healer, the wounded healer. He has a wound that's very difficult to heal. Like if you, I don't necessarily need to bring my own chart up here, but I have Chiron conjoining the moon in the 10th house. So you all are getting a big face full of Chiron energy every time we do these live streams where I talk. It's in the second decan of Taurus. It's earthy. So I try to teach about nature. Sometimes the material security is a wound that I have difficulty with in my own life. Like I love nature and I love the reciprocity between me and the planet, but sometimes there is a difficult financial, material mindset that I'm learning about over time, right? But with it in Leo, there is that desire for visibility, number one, a fear of it. Planets in the 12th house also oftentimes talk about things that we fear. I have Sun and Mercury in the 12th house, and I've had many points in my life with being afraid of being visible. I've told this story on this channel a number of times, but my mom thrust me into a fast food restaurant at age 8 or 9 and made me go order for everybody while she sat in the car. And I was deathly afraid of talking to strangers. And I remember that experience because I was so scared, but also it probably was a lesson in like, hey, you did this, nothing super terrible happened, and build some confidence, kid, right? But yes, that was a visibility like question. I would say some nuance with that Chiron, Chris and Corey, is that position is about third decan Leo, is really about defending a position that you really believe in strongly. There may be a fear of defending a hill that you're willing to die on or something like that. Maybe instead of defending that hill, you're with the Libra sun and the Aquarius moon and Saturn, maybe it's more comfortable to just say, you know what, I'm out. I'll see you later. I'm gonna go. I'm not gonna defend this position. Let's agree to disagree. Goodbye. I'm gonna check out. Okay. And I think that Chiron could be teaching you to say, well, maybe there are some things that are important to you that are your core belief systems that are worth defending. I've had to learn a lot of tough lessons with that, having a Leo 3 ascendant. There's been plenty of hills that I've, should be defending. And there's other ones that I need to very much learn from you, Corey, about how to let go when it's time to let go. So I hope that's helpful. Jolie says, yes, I'm a newbie. I really appreciate your willingness to talk with us and share your knowledge. Oh, that fills me with joy, Jolie. I love teaching and I love talking with all of you, communicating, but the essence of this channel, I hope, is teaching and learning, and me learning from you, me teaching, me communicating, all of those things. So I'm a firm believer that knowledge is meant to be shared. I try not to put too many barriers up for people to learn. So yeah, thank you so much. Castle Rock says, Spencer, what a gift. Wow, you're so gifted. Regarding Chiron in the 12th, when Daimon in Mean Girls sings beautiful and he goes, don't look at me, right? Yeah. Damien in Mean Girls, a Daimon. That was an interesting Freudian slip, like the Daimon, which is the 12th house is the house of bad Daimon. So yeah, I'll stick to the original. Yeah. So thank you, Corey, and appreciate you. That's your only planet in fire. Yeah. Or asteroid, right? Chris says, I also have the sun and moon in the 10th. Quite the paradox. Ooh, Chris. So that's probably quite a challenging thing. I can relate to that, Chris. I think that I have the moon in the 10th house. like almost exactly conjoined the midheaven. Um, and it keeps pulling me into the public view, even though I've almost tried my damnedest to be like a hermit and invisible at times. Uh, the moon, fate, whatever it is, has other plans, and that's fine. I just have to like pace myself. And maybe with you, with the sun and moon, you can be visible, show up for your community, but then have that time to yourself where you are able to retreat and recover and recharge. This is sort of the introvert's challenge, right? And I don't know if any of you would really know it, but I'm actually very introverted. And doing social things, I love it, but it also, my tank starts to sometimes go down. And then I have to take the time out to recharge the battery. I don't think introverts hate being social. It's just about, does this fill you up or does it drain you down? But it's all a balance, right? Castle Rock says, literally, it's like you've known me forever. Honestly, Corey, that is one of the things that I really enjoy about astrology, is the ability to create intimacy with people quickly, to be able to understand maybe people in a way that is very difficult to do in the very beginning of knowing people. So that's always been something I've really enjoyed about it. The feelings of connection that you can make with people by witnessing them in a way that only astrology can do on some level. And here's the thing. The astrology is, I mean, I'm just a vehicle for this. I'm not the source of this, right? Like, this is something that's super important to remember. When we study a system and we study it almost religiously, it is easier to recall the symbols. Letting the symbols speak to you is the key to being a great astrologer. Studying is important, but then in the moment, how can you let the instincts take over and let whatever wants to come through you come through you? And this is why these are conversations. As an astrologer, you should never just preach at people. Like, it is more about asking questions. How did this play out for you? Here are some of the symbols. How did this connect with your lived experience? And that's something I really enjoy doing. Jennifer says, even making the mistake of noticing Chiron got the talking going in that direction. There you go. Yeah, Jennifer, here's another thing. This is what I love about Jeffrey Cornelius, The Moment of Astrology, where he talks about the omens that are speaking that sometimes are completely disconnected from a specific time in the chart. And there are times where I've had charts that someone gave me the wrong birth time. They made a clerical error, or I made an error typing it in, and I did a whole reading on it, and they're like, wow, that was amazing. And a lot of it is because the chart is speaking to what it needs to speak to. Just like the animal that you see on your walk or the flower that you see on your walk, if you understand the symbolism behind it, it is speaking to you through that method. So Jennifer is helping to become a vehicle for Chiron to speak to us in that regard. So appreciate that. Chris says, my Mercury is at 22 Cancer. Chris, 22 Cancer Mercury, high five, because I also am a 22 Cancer Mercury. So I would say that placement gives us, oftentimes you'll hear the pause in my voice because I'm thinking about how my words are going to make other people feel. That's not always true. Sometimes when we get angry, the filters come down. But for the most part, Cancer Mercuries are trying to speak through like 3 feet of water, or emotions. And sometimes when I'm actually feeling most intensely, I can't talk at all. When I was a kid, like, if I was upset, I would just completely shut down, like, because you just felt flooded, Whereas sometimes when like air Mercuries or fire Mercuries get upset, they're just going, right? It just is ignited. But yeah, that's an interesting placement. It's Austin Kobick talks a lot about that position as philosophers too, like someone who is interested in luxury, but also has the experience of both luxury and scarcity and the balance between those two things. There's a daimon or spirit in that decan called Hecate, who was the goddess of increase and decreasing cycles of the moon. So the goddess of the crossroads. So connecting with Hecate in magical practice could be an important way for you to connect with your Mercury placement, Chris. That's something we're going to talk about in the moon webinar on October the 12th with Tanya. Let's talk about how maybe Hecate might be a part to an influence to be able to work with. Castle Rock says, Chris has a mumbling problem. We're working on that. Jennifer says, I'm 18 Cancer Mercury. Well, Jennifer, you have a specific extra bonus with your Mercury because Mercury at 18 Cancer is in its own face or its own decan. So the ability to communicate with groups of people in 3 of Cups style is supported. Whereas Chris and I, with this 22 Cancer, this tarot card syncretized with that Mercury is the 4 of Cups, where you see someone whose arms are very folded and they're refusing the 4th cup. Chris, I'll ask you, one of the feelings I get with my Mercury sometimes, friend, is just being over it and being like, I'm over this. When's the next thing gonna spark new interest, right? Where we just get filled up and then we're like, oh, if I have any more of this, it's just gonna make me sick, you know? And that what I've found, Chris, is when I feel that sense of ennui, boredom, full feeling, that is actually the point right before a breakthrough. So leaning into that and instead of getting frustrated with that feeling, recognizing that that's the precursor to a rebirth. Jennifer says, as a kid, yep, I could never talk because feelings were so intense with my moon in Pisces conjunct Jupiter. Yeah, totally. I remember much of my childhood. I got in trouble a lot as a kid. I acted out quite a bit. I didn't have good outlets for the anger and sadness that I was feeling. Losing step-parents, losing friends from moving so much. And sometimes I just wasn't, acting appropriately in class and things like I also got bored really easily. So I would finish the homework really quickly and then I just go mess with people, and the ability to see into people's let me figure out how to contextualize this. The ability to tune in to people intuitively can be used nefariously, like if you are not in a good place. And as a kid, there were times where I wasn't utilizing those gifts in the positive. There were definitely some dark-sided moments, and still there can be some of those moments. But you learn how to hopefully manage it and listen to your higher angels, I guess you'll say. Castle Rock says, Hecate, Cancer 3, Nemesis, Libra 3. Yes, got to make a cute little altar. Yeah, absolutely. So there you go. Those are great deities to be able to work with if you have planets in those particular places. Jennifer says, Sun is in Cancer too. Maybe that made a difference. Yeah. Well, where I was going with that is since I got in trouble in the principal's office a lot of the times the principal will they sit you down like, do you know why you did that, Spencer? Or do you know why they would ask you these asinine questions about like, no, I don't fucking know why I did that. I'm 8 or whatever. Like, I'm mad and upset. That's my 44-year-old self saying to the principal. But 8-year-old me would just like completely just start crying and melting down and getting red in the face and would be embarrassed and wouldn't be able to talk because you'd feel the guilt, you'd feel the shame, you'd feel all of that. And like, you couldn't speak, and it was hard, it was very difficult. And at the risk of oversharing, I don't know, this channel is the ultimate overshare channel, but yeah, I had a lot of experiences where when I was my parents went through a custody battle when I was about 9 or 10, and they would bring me into like a therapist's office and be like, they would specifically be trying to push my buttons to figure out who who I should live with or whatever. Do you know what I'm saying? And then they'd ask me like, who do you want to live with? And it's like, that's a terrible question to answer. Like, it's basically like, which of your parents do you love more? It's like, and that I think has been part of what has made me be a little bit indecisive and really think things through a lot, because you understand that those choices have consequences and you don't want to hurt people through that. But yeah, like having someone specifically push your buttons to literally make you cry. That's what my dad says. Like, they were trying to make you cry. I'm like, well, why? That's cruel. Like, I don't know. So we all have our traumas, right? And that Venus is in Scorpio and Mars is in Cancer. It's, we're dealing with the South Node. We're probably going to be bringing up some of this stuff. But, oh, Corey, thank you so much for your super chat. Thank you for your generosity, my friend. It was a real honor to be able to analyze your chart and to connect with you on that level. It says, no one's ever read my chart before, and I really appreciate it. Oh, appreciate you, man, my friend. Thank you so much. Yeah, astrology is so much fun, and it really can be healing. Sometimes it's just witnessing, right? Sometimes there's no solution necessarily. Just feeling seen is enough, and that I think is a good thing to bring with us when we practice astrology, is just allowing us to see each other in a more true way is a real gift. All right, friends, we're getting into the 2-hour mark here. Let me just go through a couple things to help you unfold for the next week. So today we're dealing with the Venus-Mars trine, right? Beautiful energy today. We're going down some deep emotional pathways. It's awesome. You all have been a super incredible group today. Mars is going to enter its retrograde shadow tomorrow, okay, on the 5th. So this is where Mars is going to retrograde back to over the course of the next few months. So pay attention to any challenges or conflicts that might come up. I've gone through an extensive analysis of Mars's retrograde cycle in the Astrology of October, and I talked about it a little bit in the eclipse, the new moon solar eclipse live stream. So check that out if you want a deeper dive on that. On the 6th, on Sunday, Mercury-Mars square. So just be real careful with conversations that you have with Mercury and Mars squaring here. This can bring up some issues where we're trying to communicate in our relationships and things might not feel fair, but we have to be very careful about not being direct in our communications and like being kind of like giving those little jabs that are really toxic, like those little types of like jabby things that they seem like innocuous comments, but they can be really painful after we reflect upon it. That's something to really be aware of with that as well. And then we get to the 8th, and I'm just going really quickly through this, friends, because we got to get out of here. So, and I don't mean that I have to necessarily. I just think I'm just getting hungry. That's that's what I mean by that. This is the Taurus moon talking. I gotta eat. But I digress. So, Venus and Mercury trines on the 8th. So we have Venus and Mars trining on the 8th, Tuesday, and then Mercury and Jupiter trining. So I do think that this is a nice little moment in our month. Before maybe some more challenging stuff comes up, some opportunities to be able to take action on our desires and to be able to communicate in a way that is more balanced. Okay, so this is something to keep in mind, that Tuesday could be a potentially positive day. Although we do have the opposition between the moon and Jupiter, we may really be needing to carry a lot of weight on our shoulders to get something done, and we may feel like we're spread a little bit too thin in a lot of different directions. So be careful and wary of that. On Wednesday, Jupiter is stationing retrograde. So you can see this here. Here is Jupiter at 21 degrees stationing retrograde. It's going to station all the way back retrograde to 11 degrees of Gemini, and then turn direct, I believe, in February. So an opportunity to review some of the choices that we've made. Like, we may have felt like we had to let some things go to be able to do the things that are most important to us, but we may have an opportunity to review whether what we let go of was the right thing or not, and then move forward again with confidence in February. And this is going to affect our Sagittarius and Pisces houses as well. So there might be some reviews with those topics. And then on the 10th, we have the first quarter moon. This one looks a little sticky to me. And I talked about this in the astrology of October too, but this is a big T-square between the sun, the moon, and Mars. So we might be working together on a project, but we have some family misfortune that is making that, putting pressure on that. And we might be trying to build something ambitious, but we have to balance that with the challenges of this Mars. So this is something that I think that we'll have to navigate. Like we can't always avoid the challenges that Mars brings us, but what we might have to do is scale back our ambitions a little bit so that we leave some space to deal with some of the domestic issues, and we don't get in over our head, like with our physical building projects that the moon and Capricorn can often represent. Okay. And then finally, we got Pluto stationing direct the day after. On Friday, we'll have another live stream on Friday with Pluto stationing direct, and then moving away from Capricorn finally in mid-November. So that should be a relief for some of us with Cancer placements. So still challenges, wherever Pluto is at, but we'll try to navigate it with grace. But pay attention to what's coming up for you in the structural and bureaucratic areas of your life as Pluto stations direct. All right. So, thank you, Heather, for the super sticker. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate you. Thank you for stopping in and being a part of our awesome group here. And I hope that everything's going well with your health and whatnot, and that you're healing and getting the help that you need, my friend. Jennifer says, great delineating, Spencer. Thank you, Jennifer. Appreciate that. Painted Turtle says, my favorite part of astrology is the overshare. It's my favorite groups. Oh, well, Lauren, you'll have fun in our Decan Walk. We go to some deep emotional places, friend. So I'm happy that you'll be a part of it. She says, my Mercury in Cancer has Decan rulership, and enjoy. I might as well wear a t-shirt that says, can we talk about your thoughts and feelings now? Because that's where I hope every conversation will go. Nice. Where's your sun, Lauren? What's your sun moon? I don't remember what your sun moon is. I know you got Cancer rising and Cancer Mars, but I'd be curious where the sun moon is. Ray says, this Cancer rising is all about Pluto moving forward. Yeah, me and you both, Ray. Although I'm not going to be able to escape Pluto coming into an angular house as a Leo rising, but Pluto and Capricorn was hard, and I any kind of change I think will be welcome on some level. Okay, so a couple things, friends, before we wrap it up for the day. I have an I Ching for you, and I have a hexagram. So our I Ching is number 26. This is for Libra season, okay? So this is hexagram number 26, which translates to great accumulation, the taming power of the great amassing, great restraint, great caretaking, storing up, preparation, gathering knowledge, cultivating your abilities, improving yourself, and waiting for the right moment. So this hexagram counsels us to have restraint and accumulate our resources in expectation of the right moment to advance. So this is a preparation phase. This is a storing up phase. So this, Jack Balkin, who's an excellent I Ching writer, says from his book, The Laws of Change, this hexagram offers advice both about how to achieve future success and how to make yourself into the sort of person who naturally succeeds. Whatever your goals in life, you can achieve them if you go about things in the right way. He says, first, size up the resources that you currently have available. These include not only your financial resources, but your social resources, your friends, relationships, and connections. Second, decide what needs to be improved or accumulated in order to reach your goal. Perhaps you need to make new connections or raise funds. Maybe you need to brush up on your talents or social skills. Whatever it is, make a plan and stick to it. He says, third, work on yourself. Your character is the most important resource that you have. Develop good habits. Plan your actions in advance. Instead of rushing forward impetuously, stop to consider the consequences. Stay focused and don't let yourself be distracted from your long-term goals. And then he says, finally, fourth, work for something larger than yourself. Don't confuse determination with isolation from others. He says, this is a new time. This is a time for new possibilities, new situations, and even new relationships. Let go of your fears and inhibitions. It is time to go out into the world and make a difference. Okay? I love it. That's great advice. Preparing to make a difference out in the world. Preparing to share our knowledge and gifts with the world. Preparing for service and reciprocity. Painted Turtle says, Sun in Cancer, Moon Leo. Oh, okay. Wow, you got a big stack up there in the first house. That's cool. All right. Well, we're going to witness your journey, friend. I'm looking forward to it. Painted Turtle says, even more the point, if you need a listening, helpful ear, I'm the one. Pick me. Right, with the Leo moon hosting that sun. That's funny. Oh, fun. Castle Rock says, what an astute and relevant I Ching. The I Ching is an incredible oracle. It never fails to bring very poignant wisdom to my experience. I am so grateful for this particular oracle. It really does mesh very well with astrology and being able to connect those themes with what we're experiencing with the transits. So I have one more thing for you. I have an animal spirit for you. And I got the rainbow lory. Look at that beautiful bird. This beautiful little baby, colorful bird who is very social. So the rainbow lory teaches us about sociability. It teaches us about joyfulness and play. I think we need to find a little joy in these challenging times, especially when we're dealing with a heavy eclipse with Venus and Scorpio. We're being asked to let go, or maybe we have some conflicts in our most tender spaces, and that can be exhausting. But helping us to lighten up and find gratitude and appreciation can be associated with rainbow lory. This bird encourages us to go after what we want. It is very colorful. It brings vibrancy and joy into your life. It loves baths and it sleeps flat on its back. So try this position, maybe potentially. One of the cards in Libra is the Four of Swords. And you can see a figure, like an effigy, I guess, like just laid out flat on its back. And many of us who have some placements, like for me, I have this part of spirit there, laying down, being horizontal and meditating is an important thing for restoration. So that might be something that we can do. So the lory helps us to understand other people's point of view. Any parrot or bird like this that is very social, that lives in these social groups, can teach us about communication. So this helps us to understand someone's point of view. They have excellent communication skills. They can help you see both the positive and the negative sides of something, and look at what someone is saying from a spectrum, rather than from getting so black and white and extreme about our viewpoint. So this is a great reminder for election season, where we get increasingly polarized, where literally the technique for these folks to get elected is to turn us against one another. And I think that it takes a lot of discipline and wisdom to try to at least understand where other people are coming from, even if we don't agree with them. And it is very challenging when it's something that we're passionate about. But I do think it is important to make the attempt to, even if you don't agree, to understand where other people are coming from and to give them the grace and the latitude to either surprise you or to just live their own life, right? I'm getting facefuls of that lesson on the daily, friends. I mean, there's a lot of strong opinions that I hold, not only as an astrologer, but as a steward of the earth, as a person. And when we come face to face with different belief systems, we can get fired up. We can get passionate about expressing our own viewpoint and try to convince others to our point of view. And oftentimes we can be too aggressive with that. Like I had some experiences with that this week with Mars on my sun, just being a little bit too aggressive about asserting my own viewpoint. And reaped some of the repercussions of that. And I think that it's important to bring yourself back into balance and allow other people the grace to have their own opinions, to learn their own lessons, and just to still try to find common ground where it exists. And I think that this is a beautiful lesson from this bird, and to just lighten up. We don't have to take everything so seriously. I think that just celebrating each other's joy is important, each other's beautiful parts. It's celebrating each other's positive qualities, even if we don't agree with everything and how they live their life. It's super important. So I hope that's helpful for you. Yes, it is a very beautiful bird, Jennifer. It's really, like, I can't imagine seeing one of these in the wild. It'd be shocking with its colors, right? Yeah, a reminder to lighten up. Absolutely, Corey. So that's what I've got for you, friends. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Again, I really look forward to these live streams as a communal event. I am super grateful for all of you. Appreciate you being here, for all of your wisdom, for your vulnerability, for your sharing, for your observations, for your donations. Thank you so much for those of you who are in the position to share it. Really, I'm really grateful for that. Do me a huge favor. I know this is like the live streamer speak, but like the video. It's an easy way to give back to the channel and help, get us out to more people. If this is beneficial for you, we can hopefully help even more people. Subscribe, subscribe to the channel. If you're new, turn on the notification bell if you want to know when we're going live. Subscribe to the newsletter. That's a great way to know when there's new class offerings. Sometimes there's discounts. Oftentimes there's new announcements that go out through the newsletter. It's a great way to keep in touch. And of course, you can go follow me over at Spencer Michaud, at Spencer Michaud on Instagram, Twitter, and Threads. I post, various things in my stories and gardening things and a few funny things every once in a while, some animals, and announcements about classes. You can go find me at spencermichaud.com. If you want to book a reading or a class, you can click on the Book Now button on my website, the Book Now button. If you want to purchase a previously recorded webinar, you can go to the Store button. That's where all my Decan's webinars are, and my Stars and Cards webinar, where I talk about the connection with tarot and the astrology. And there is a link to all of the fall classes in the chat here today. So this is the last weekend that you can sign up for the Decan Walk and for the fall class bundle. I mean, I guess if you're really just pokey and you want to reach out after it's started and you want to sign up, we can figure it out. But this is sort of the soft deadline for all of this. So if you are interested in these classes, Decan Walk 24-25 starts Monday. Dignity and Devotion, the 7 Traditional Planets webinar series starts October the 12th. And the guided group study, The Hobbit, is starting Monday, October the 14th. So reach out, spencermichaudastrology@gmail.com, or go to the website and sign up. Again, if you sign up for the whole bundle, you get a free bonus Mythos natal reading, much like we talked about with Corey's chart today, but much more in depth. My natal readings are 2 hours. I do a number of pages of prep beforehand. I incorporate the tarot, I incorporate the I Ching, I incorporate an animal spirit for you. I analyze each individual planet in your chart, and we have just a nice long conversation about how those themes are playing out in your life. So that is what I've got for you today. Thank you so much, my friends, for hanging out. Appreciate all of you. I'll see you the next time. I'm just going to look at the chat here and get all your wonderful little comments here. Love this 13. Thank you, says Tom. Thank you, Tom. Tracy says, thank you, Spencer. Have a lovely evening. Thank you, Tracy. Thank you, Painted Turtle. Great cast today. Appreciate you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jennifer. Appreciate you. Michelle says, I missed this tonight, but caught the animal message. Thank you, Spencer. I hear this is a Libra Sun, Ascendant, Mercury, and Pluto. Oh, Michelle, well, hopefully we're able to get that beautiful message from the Rainbow Lori. And we had some really nice conversations today. So go back and watch the replay, and we'll see you the next time, hopefully. All right, friends, that's what I've got for you. Remember, try to relax. Try to be as kind as you can. Feel your feelings. Cry if you need to cry. Lean on the side of kindness and try to see things from someone else's perspective if you can. And maybe we all just need to lighten up a little bit, right? All right, friends. Have a good one, and I'll see you the next time. Peace.